The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
You're now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am, of course, your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Thursday night, November 3rd, 2016. Thanks so much for joining us. Most of you are probably listening tomorrow, Friday. Just checking out the data for like the podcast. The podcast, you guys are over there listening and consuming the hell out of the podcast. And so I want to say thank you to you. Those of you who don't necessarily want to see my face, but you want to hear my voice, I appreciate it all the same. It's all the same to me. I love it. I love that you love it. And thanks so much for helping us grow over there. What's going on, everyone on YouTube? Definitely always a pleasure to hang out with you live. Brings an element to the show that I really, really appreciate. So we're looking forward to just keeping on with good things, man. You guys make it happen. To all the patrons, of course, thank you. Special shout out to Team Progressive Army, Team Benjamin Dixon Show. Special shout out to Max, my researcher, gets it done in the clutch. Shout out to Owen, who makes it happen with the video edits. Shout out to David, who just holds the entire Progressive Army universe together. He's like the Progressive Army god. He has everything in his hands and makes sure that nothing falls apart. And then, of course, all the different hosts, everybody. Okay, enough with the preliminaries. I'm going to start with some low-hanging fruit, the low-hanging fruit of Melania Trump. In her speech today, it's the irony. That's why. I know somebody's like, why is he talking about this? I have an affinity for irony. I can't not point out hypocrisy or irony. It's just, I can't. It's not in my nature to be able to do that. So today, Melania Trump had a speech, and she was speaking on behalf of her husband, obviously, and she was talking about, specifically what she was going to do if she became the first lady. And she said that she would try to improve a social media culture that has gotten, quote, too mean and too tough, riddled with insults based on looks and intelligence. Okay, let's see. I'm just going to randomly go into my computer here and see. Better yet, I guess we can go live to Donald Trump's timeline on Twitter. I think that would be fun. Let's go live to Donald Trump's timeline on Twitter. And like when I say live, I'm like, this is legitimately live. Like I didn't even try. I'm not even prepared to do this. So let's see if I can find examples of the internet being too mean and making things based on appearance. And let me get rid of my bookmark bar over here so you guys don't know all of my secrets. How do I get rid of my bookmarks? All right. No, don't show bookmarks. All right. So let's go. Here's Twitter. Here is Twitter. Let's see if I can split that. Okay, there's my Twitter account. Let's go to Donald J. Trump. I'm typing in the wrong computer. I might have just shut something down. Don't even know. All right, Donald Trump. All right. Let's go to his timeline. Where's Donald Trump? Where's Donald Trump's timeline? Let's go to Donald Trump's timeline. I'm just guessing that if I scroll down his timeline enough, I'm going to find an example of something mean. And of course, if I Google it, right, that'd be the easy low hanging fruit. But I'm just guessing if I scroll down far enough. Hell, let's go back to, okay, well, that's campaign fodder. I'm just going to scroll. I'm going to scroll down to a time when he wasn't. And I'm going to take you off of the main screen. So on the main screen, I'm going to show you me. Oh, yeah, I definitely messed up something here. Trying to be cute and mess it up. Okay, hang on. Let's see. How do I fix this here? Let's go here. Boom, boom. So anyway, you get the picture while I try to fix this for YouTube. YouTube, you guys hang on. The picture is, you obviously know, it's the irony of Melania saying that she wants to fix an internet culture that is mean and divisive when in fact she is married to the king of internet. He's like the king troll, right? Without question, Donald Trump is the lead troll on the internet. I mean, everything from, of course, Rosie O'Donnell to Mitt Romney to Ted Cruz's wife, for the love of God. Like what he did to Ted Cruz and his wife, you know, that was beyond irony. So, you know, it just seems amazing to me that and of course, we don't expect her to actually hold her husband accountable, right? We don't expect that. But you also should not expect me to let that bit of irony pass me by without calling them out on it, because it is utterly hilarious. All right, so that's the low hanging fruit. The other thing I want to talk about, when I still don't have my my video back up, but I'm working as I go, so hang out with me on YouTube. The other low hanging fruit that I want to talk about is Beyonce at the Country Music Awards last night. Now, in 9 times out of 10, I'm not interested in that at all, right? However, what makes this interesting is that she brought, for the 5 minutes that she was performing, she brought the highest ratings that the CMA has ever seen. She brought it to them. And hang on, let's do a take here. And despite bringing the highest ratings that they had ever seen, they being the CMA, purged every reference of Beyonce from their social media accounts. Right? You can't make this up. So they brought her on. She performed with the Dixie Chicks. I didn't see it, so I can't tell you whether it was good or if it was bad. I can't tell you anything about that. All I can tell you is that they purged her after the fact. And now, if you go to the Country Music Awards website, you see that she is being attacked. People were saying that they loved every bit of the Country Music Awards except for Beyonce. And then they, of course, started attacking Beyonce as all the things they attacked Beyonce as being, which is hilarious in the sense that they are glad to enjoy the CMA. They're very happy to enjoy Beyonce, her ratings, the benefit they get from having her on there. But they don't want the baggage of having to deal with their rabid supporters who could never accept Beyonce and her quote unquote anti-cop message. That's the hilarious thing about it. And it just shows you the extent to which people had, not the extent to which, but the magnitude with which people's hatred can drive an institution that is getting benefit from you. Right? We're not talking about them doing Beyonce a favor. We're talking about Beyonce doing them a favor. And yet and still, they can't look in their audience's faces and say, yes, we had Beyonce on our show. And no, we are not taking off our site because she brought us a huge benefit. But instead of doing that, they did what cowards do, which was to completely erase any presence of Beyonce from their site. Hilarious. Hilarious and sad at the same time, but it's not surprising. Above anything else, it's not surprising, and it just goes to show you. The. Oh, hang on, we might have something here. Hold on. It goes. We're almost there. Talk to me. Who else can give you commentary on the fly, as well as fix a problem with TriCaster on the fly? Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to give myself a round of applause. Because it was still the same commentary I wanted to give. You just couldn't see my beautiful face, such as it is. So, real talk though, how can you expect to get the benefit from somebody's presence, but then can't be brave enough to face your followers and say, yes, I had her on this show? That's some coward shit right there. That's really below the belt cowardice in every sense of the word. Because honestly, what did they offer Beyonce that Beyonce didn't have? They didn't do anything for Beyonce. Beyonce did it for them. And yet it reminds me of, and I guess I wonder, did I ever do this? I don't think I ever did this. I'm not 100% a good guy, but I don't know if I ever did this. Have you ever seen people who are more than happy to be with you in private, but will never claim you in public? That's exactly what the CMA just did to Beyonce, and it's trifling as hell. And they don't deserve to ever have her back. All right, low hanging fruit out of the way. Let's talk some real news. Let's talk some international news. I want to see what you guys are talking about. Yes, I get it. I did it. I got it. All right. Let's talk some international news. So there are a couple of stories happening on the international stage that I think are definitely worth our time talking about. Number one is the surprising decision that came down from the highest court in the United Kingdom that stated that, in fact, Brexit was not a binding agreement, a binding referendum. Instead, it was basically just an opinion poll, for lack of a better word, and that the ultimate decision on Brexit must come from Parliament. In other words, Parliament must rule on it. This is to the dismay of Theresa May. You see what I did there? Because she's going underneath the slogan of Brexit means Brexit. And she was ready whenever a plan was set forth. She was ready to make a move on Brexit. Now, this really, at first glance, it looks as though this means that Brexit is dead on arrival, that it's over with. But it's such a divisive issue in the UK that Parliament ruling against what the people voted for could very well be them falling on their sword. And by that, I mean all of the moneyed interest, all of the neoliberal class, all of the ruling elite, the oligarchy, they most certainly want to remain inside of the European Union. The people who voted against leaving, people who voted for Brexit, they want to leave. And the majority want to leave. And so if the members of Parliament do what's in the best interest of the moneyed elite and those who just want to stay, people who want to be a part of that cosmopolitan, I almost said Neapolitan, people who want to be a part of that cosmopolitan society, they want to remain. And if Parliament goes against the people, they can lose some of their seats. The problem is that according to the structure in the UK, the people are not the sovereign body. The sovereignty rests with Parliament. And to be sure, that's not the underlying problem with Brexit. I just think it's a very interesting twist on the conversation, something that I really, quite frankly, was not aware of until researching this story, that in terms of sovereignty. So in America, we pretend as though, and we believe, and it's actually written, that the people, we're giving consent to be governed, but the people are the sovereign in the United States. That's not so in the UK. In the UK, it's the Parliament. And I guess if you extrapolate from how they evolved from being monarchy to being this constitutional monarchy, it's instead of burning down the monarchy, they expanded on the monarchy by bringing in Parliament, which gives a semblance of representation, of democracy. But if the question was going to be asked, is it going to be a sovereign king or a sovereign people? They said neither. They said we want a sovereign representative body. So it's interesting that, in the context of Brexit, you have the people who said we want to leave. Now you have the highest court in the UK saying, well, that's ultimately up to Parliament, and Parliament must rule on it. So it's bringing to the front this reality that, one, the people do not have the final say so much as Parliament has. Now, they do have the capacity to pass referendums, but on this scale, on something that's impacting the sovereignty of their nation, Parliament has the final word. So if you want to know how divided they are, the opinion is actually split 52% to 48%. And that's with a 72% turnout, 52% in favor of leaving. So if Parliament goes against that, it's already it's going to bring to the front that there is it's going to bring to the front the extent to which the people are subjugated to Parliament. And once that comes to the front, it is that they are that much more likely to say, throw the bums out. Like, you may be the sovereign body, but we as a people have the right to vote you out. So this could really backfire on members of Parliament. So even though it seems at a first glance, coming full circle, that the Brexit is dead on arrival, I think it's a little deeper than that. I think it's going to take a little bit more analysis than that. That may not be the case, and that may not be the case because of how divided the nation is, the kingdom is around this issue, and how much of a slap to the face of the people Parliament essentially ignoring them would actually be. All right, 857-600-0518. I guess the perfect time for me to have taken a call would have been when I messed up my camera, but we survived. Let's take this first caller. I'm afraid to push a button here. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, man. What's up?
Oh, okay. Okay, question. So I wanted to piggyback on something you said last night about how progressives, you felt like some of them are going to be, you could say, kind of exposed in terms of, they're, because of everything that's going on with the election, that, whatever they are feeling could affect or basically, prove an agenda, or they're just kind of like, their personal feelings or whatever are getting in the way of looking at reality. So I want you to kind of elaborate that on that if you can. Like, elaborate on what you were trying to say.
Bryce, give it to me one more time. I think I missed something important in what you were asking me. Ask it one more time for me.
Oh, no, I was saying, could you elaborate in terms of progressives about their feelings, or if they're being really progressive or not, like what you were saying last night?
I still don't think I'm sorry. Maybe I missed the question. What's the question? Ask me the question one more time, but because I'm not getting it. Give it one more time. Third time's a charm. I promise.
Okay. What I'm saying is, progressives, you were saying last night about how some might get, I guess, exposed, or they're not as progressive, or they're kind of getting kind of because of what's going on in terms of personal agenda.
Yeah.
I'm saying, can you elaborate on what you were saying?
Okay. I'm sorry. It was totally me that time. All right. What I mean by that is I feel like there have been, I can name some, right? But because we kind of have a peace treaty between us, we'll leave it alone. I won't name them on air, but I can name some very influential voices, particularly in the social media and commentary world, that hitched their sales to Bernie Sanders and to progressivism. And as soon as Bernie Sanders was out the picture, they went full Trump. And to go from being I'm a progressive with Bernie Sanders to full Trump is almost impossible unless you view it through the lens of they were never really progressive. They were just anti-Hillary, which is cool. Be anti-Hillary, but it exposes the extent to which they're willing to oppose and undermine is actually the accurate word, to undermine the progressive agenda by co-signing with agendas from Trump that are antithetical to progressivism. Yes, Hillary Clinton's progressivism is non-existent, problematic, all the above, but Donald Trump's tax policy, for example, is antithetical to progressivism. His policies on LGBTQ, right? You can just go down the line. And you see people lining up with this, and I'm like, wait a minute, you were never progressive to begin with. Your entire time during the primaries, saying that you were Bernie this and Bernie that, progressive this and progressive that, it really wasn't about progressivism. It was really about you just wanting to oppose Hillary Clinton, which I get. But now at this point, it's coming full exposure. Like, we're fully aware and it's transparent because the things that they are fighting for are so problematic in terms of progressivism. So that's really all I mean. Like they've exposed themselves, some key voices, some key people who have exposed themselves to not really be about a progressive agenda. They're just 100% about being against Hillary Clinton. And when being against Hillary Clinton pushes you to being for Donald Trump instead of, let's say, Jill Stein, which you know, if you wanted a progressive agenda and you weren't going to support Hillary Clinton, then clearly your choice is Jill Stein, right? But instead of doing that, they've made their bed with Donald Trump. And to me, that exposes the fact that they were never really progressive to begin with. All right, cool. 857-600-0518. Let's see. I still have a few problems over here, but I think we have enough to make it through the night. All right, let's get back on some of the topics. I didn't know Bryce left. I wanted you to reply, but it's all good. So that's it with the UK and the Brexit vote. Here's some interesting news out of Russia. So the director of Moscow's Library of Ukrainian Literature was charged with inciting ethnic hatred against Russians. Natalia Sharina, who was the librarian, she faces up to 10 years in prison. She was arrested last year, and she's now being charged and faces potentially 10 years. The prosecutor cited, along with a list of Ukrainian publication that had been prohibited or had been deemed degrading to Russians. Her lawyer said that witnesses describing seeing officers planting books in the library when they arrived to search it in October of 2015, or at least they indicated that there were people who planted those books. So it's interesting from the perspective of the extent to which dissenting voices are in trouble. And this is not a, and I don't want people to take this and say, oh, this is a red scare, right? But in reality, Putin is very dictatorial, very authoritarian, and he has many human rights violations to his credit, right? And one of the things that he has done relentlessly over his term, this term and his original term, right, has been to silence voices. Now, the extent to which this could be actually laid at Vladimir Putin's feet, that's debatable, right? Does it reach this far? Does it reach this far down? That is debatable. But the culture, right? The fear that is placed, because even in the attorney's explanation of, or the witness's account that they're giving, they're saying they witnessed people planting these types of books there. And we'll talk about the substance of the books in a moment. But just having to justify the presence of a book that you feel is unflattering or inflammatory or even propagandistic. Let's go far. Let's go all the way. Let's say these books are exactly as problematic as authorities in Russia say they are. Doesn't that speak to the ability or the freedom to consume things that are not flattering to the government or to the people? I mean, isn't that part of a set of basic core freedoms that we all expect and fight for? And of course, this is not just Russia, right? We see this popping up across the globe and occasionally here in the United States, right? It's material that the biggest thing to me, let me come to the United States for a second. The most amazing thing to me is that we still have a list of books that are banned in the United States, right? That blows me away, right? But now, how many people are being imprisoned for having these books, right? So the story is interesting for many reasons, not only just because of because it's just the freedom to consume, to read, right? Some basic liberties. But there's no coincidence that it's a librarian of Ukrainian literature who's being charged, as opposed to a librarian who specializes in Cossack literature, for example, right? It's a part of a consistent theme and a consistent strategy that has been employed. Now, the librarian herself has been under house arrest for over a year, and she has only recently been allowed to leave the house for brief walks. But this is what I mean when I say, let's be careful, or not even careful. You do whatever you want to do, how you want to do it. Let's be mindful that the enemy of our enemy, and in this example, what I'm speaking of is American imperialism, is seen as the enemy, right? Let's be careful that the enemy of our enemy, American imperialism, is not necessarily our friend, because the things that they do and the ways that they do it and get it done are equally as damning, equally as problematic, and equally as an affront to some basic human rights, some basic human freedoms that we take for granted, that we just see as a given. And in our efforts to oppose American imperialism wherever it rears its ugly head, I've seen some who've fallen on the side of a sympathetic view of Russia, and I just don't have much sympathy for anybody, not in America, Russia, any of them, but definitely Putin gets no sympathy for me because of this, as well as many other examples of human rights violations for the express reason of silencing political dissent, silencing opposition. I mean, and it's not just Russia, right? This is still in the 21st century of Earth. We still have nation after nation after nation where the ruling family or the ruling elite have power and are able to subjugate dissent through the force of law. All right. Let's move on to some other conversations. So last night we reported on the Hopewell Missionary Baptist Church in Greenville, Mississippi. And actually, now that I put that together, I actually know some people who probably are part of this church. My family's from everywhere, but Mississippi, we spent a lot of years, particularly near and around Greenville. But last night we reported on it. The church was burned down. And on the side of the church, they wrote "Vote Trump." In response, they started a GoFundMe account seeking $10,000 to repair the damages, and they have reached already $170,000 they have raised to rebuild the church and to restore everything that was burned. That's the power of this interconnectivity that is problematic in the example of, what Melania Trump says she wants to fix and fight against. It does become problematic, but at certain times you have moments like this where people band together, and when someone tried to destroy the people of the internet said no, and they helped restore $170,000. That's, they've gotten way more than they ever asked for. They should be able to do a lot. And hopefully they will do a lot, not only to rebuild, but to help the community. This comes in the backdrop, again, of what we discussed yesterday, of David Duke. Just to give a correction, on yesterday, we talked about David Duke being at Dillard. I did not expressly say that he was there to be a part of a debate. We kind of generally discussed him being there as a speaker. But in fact, he was there to participate in a debate for the office that he's running for in Louisiana. So you have David Duke, who was a Grand Imperial Dragon Wizard, whatever his titles are. It's an insane story. I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place, but I was talking to this dude who was talking about the KKK, and he was like, the KKK is bad, but, and I'm like, well, no, there are no buts. All right, what the hell can you possibly say after the KKK is bad, but, and he said, but They have some amazing names, man. They have like the Imperial Dragon and the Grand Wizard and all these guys. And I'm like, okay, all right, fine. I'll give you that. I guess they have some names from Dungeons and Dragons or something. But anyway, the Grand Dragon, Imperial Wizard, Gandalf. I'm sorry, so far from Gandalf. Anyway, David Duke running for office, a part of the KKK, unrepentant, shows up at Dillard last night, and of course, it did not go well. This is happening one state over from Mississippi, where this church was just burned, right? And there's a seriousness to, you know, I'm taking it light here, but there's a seriousness to this conversation that I need to convey. Just on the other side of Mississippi, where this church was burned down, you have a member of the Klan who is running for elected office and has been accepted back into the mainstream enough such that he feels that he stands a chance to win this elected office. And on the flip side, you have the KKK Crusader paper who has endorsed Donald Trump. Donald Trump has, in fairness to Donald Trump has repudiated and rejected that endorsement. However, it doesn't change the fact that what he stands for and what he represents is so appealing to people like David Duke. And you have to ask yourself the question, like, really, what year is this? What year is this? Like, there was a period during the primaries where there was a church being burned down every week, a black church being burned down almost every single week. And you have all of these hate organizations that are coming out of the woodworks just free to be public. I mean, they have always been here. There will always be here, but there was at least a respite where they were not proud to be loud and out in public with their hate messages. And now we've come into a point where now churches are being burned and these hate messages are ever present around us and not in the dredges of society. They're front and center. And it makes me ask the question, like, where do we actually go after this election? Like, has Pandora's box been open and there's no return? Or is there a way back to whatever we call normal? You know, whatever period, I don't care what period it was, whatever period where the Klan was not eligible for running for office. It was only a small period, right? Keep in mind, like 1912, Woodrow Wilson, right? He was elevated to the White House as a member of the KKK. And, you know, I think during that period, they had like over 4 million people. So probably all of Congress was a part of the KKK or affiliated with the KKK. So we're not talking about a long period in American history. We're talking about maybe a 5 to 10, maybe a third, maybe one generation of one gap where the members of the neo-Nazi party and the Ku Klux Klan were not able to be front and center and say, I'm going to run for office as a proud member of the Klan. So it's not in any form or fashion to say that this did not exist or it ever went away or we were ever post-racial. We're never going to be post-racial. We're never going to get rid of this. It's never going to go away. But we should make progress enough to where we say somebody who's a member of an established hate group cannot be free enough to run for office and actually be popular enough to make it to a debate stage. That's the problem. And the underlying problem underneath that is that it 100% depends on what we as a collective body deem acceptable. Because there's no regulation, there's no law, and we don't want any law to actually rule that out, right? We don't want any law to say this group of people can't run for office, no, we don't want that. It's 100% dependent on what we deem acceptable as the body politic. And we have gotten to a point where what's acceptable in this 2016 election is for somebody like David Duke to run for office, and then just on the other side of the border, black churches are being burned down. We're going in the wrong damn direction. And we're going at an accelerated pace. And I'm just curious. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything to put us back on moving in the right direction. Because it never went away. It was just in the dredges of society. I, for one, if it can't get rid of it, then they should just be too ashamed to come in public, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. I'm not by nobody important. All right. Who did I say? Oh, he wasn't. Oh, thank you. Correction. So Woodrow Wilson wasn't. Oh, you know what it was? It was the Birth of the Nation movie. That's what it was. So I'm sorry. He was a dick, right? He's still a white supremacist. Woodrow Wilson was not a member of the Klan, but he was number one with the Klan. we can definitely say that. And he did a screening of Birth of the Nation at the White House. And not the Nate Parker Birth of a Nation. We're talking about the Klan origin story movie. All right. Thanks for that correction. Do it on the fly so that I don't have to do it tomorrow. All right, let's talk about ISIS. This has been something we've been covering pretty regularly. So the battle for Mosul is still raging on. It seems to be going in the direction that the various factions that are fighting against ISIS, it seems to be working out good. It seems to be working out so good that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi has done something that he does not regularly do. He has not in over a year since he actually took Mosul, if I'm not mistaken. He has not made a video or audio, a release of any kind, any statement. And in light of what's happening in Mosul, he sent out a tape addressing about 5,000 ISIS soldiers who are still in Mosul, telling them to, quote, he tells them to hold your ground in honor holding your ground in honor is 1,000 times better than retreating in disgrace. And so he's trying to shore up the confidence of his ISIS fighters who are fighting back against the forces. But, it's telling that he has to make this statement in the first place. But we were discussing before the show how powerful and how dangerous it is to have a group of people who are have nothing to lose and are willing to die for their ideology. And this is essentially what Baghdadi has conveyed to his fighters. He's telling them to die. He's telling them to go all the way to the point of death, which is better than retreating in disgrace. So this type of battle, I mean, this is it's going to be, I don't want to say interesting because interesting is not the right word here. It's going to be important for us to see how this plays out now that he's their supreme leader, he has shored up and he's called on them to be faithful even unto death. So this tape was released by ISIS's media wing, and the message, in the tone, the tone of it itself conveys an energy, and I don't want to say almost an urgency, and great animosity, sectarian animosity towards Shia Muslims and other non-Muslim groups. The audio is 32 minutes long. He references Turkey massing armaments along the Iraqi border. So it was an extensive message, but the core message remains that even at this point, he has full expectation of his fighters to fight to the very bitter end. So we'll keep an eye on that. (857-600). There's a little bit more here. I think I want to discuss about ISIS, but we'll come back to it. 857. Holy cow. 600-0518 is the number to join the conversation. A lot happening. Too much happening. In the meantime, before I switch stories here, I want to give you guys a heads up. If you are in the Boston area, and I know quite a few of our listeners are in Boston. If you're in the Boston area, I want you to come out on Monday. On Monday, I will be speaking at Boston College. I will be speaking to their media department. They have a series of speakers. My talk is going to be about media and their role in the 2016 election. So it should be interesting, and there'll be a brief, I don't ever speak long, even though I do talk for an hour here every night. When I'm in person, I don't talk long. I try my best not to. But there's going to be a question and answer session. So come out to Boston College. I'll be tweeting out the details. And then I have an exciting interview that's coming up. I will give you a little more information before the end of the show. I want you to stay in tune for that. Yeah. Okay. Here's the other thing that I wanted to report on. And this is not reporting. This is something last night that kind of blew me away. Let me start here. Let me connect it to the election, and then I'm going to go off on my tangent. So I tweeted last night because I got home and the World Series was still on. I'm going to do my best to say this without having a lecturing tone, because I don't want to lecture about this. This is, it is what it is. I tweeted, something about the World Series being a wild game, because it was wild. We were up to 1:00 in the morning waiting for the extra innings to be over. Congratulations, Cubs. It's been a long time coming. You guys got one. Congrats. I woke up this morning to people who were genuinely upset that we were talking about the World Series instead of talking about political corruption, instead of talking about the campaign, and instead of talking about how we can stop Hillary. And I'm like, okay, and it wasn't one person. I think it was at least 5 people. Still, 5 people was enough for me to generally ignore. But the extent to which they were serious about the World Series being a distraction from political corruption. And it made me think. I'm like, if we actually had documentation from, let's say the Bronze Age, right? I'm sure there was political corruption in some form or fashion for every stage of human existence. So if you're waiting on the complete purge of political corruption for you to chill the hell out, then you might as well just give up now and just go jump off a bridge or something, because I'm sorry, don't get, because some people might take that seriously. But seriously, folks, chill out. Just take a Xanax, smoke a blunt, just go for a walk and look at the leaves, because we are not going to end every problem in the world by having 100% laser-like focus and never coming up for air. It's just insane. It's asinine, right? Okay, so all I did was tweet about one tweet. And I'm going to show you what I was tweeting about. Actually, it was 2 tweets. I'm lying. There was 2 tweets. The second tweet was actually amazing. And I want to share the second tweet on your screen now. Actually, I want to put it on the full screen, because this guy made a tweet. Don't know who this guy is. I guess I could pull his name up. It's kind of irrelevant. But he tweeted this out 2 years ago. And I want you to see what he said 2 years ago. 2 years ago, he says, in 2016 World Series, Cubs versus the Indians, check. And then the world would end with the score tied in Game 7 in extra innings. #apocalypse. So, the world's not coming to an end, right? No big deal. It's just a fun tweet that we shared. It's amazing. I hope this guy put some money on that. I hope he went to Vegas that night and put some money on that, because he would be insanely wealthy this morning. I have a feeling he didn't. But anyway, the point is this. It's this thing is almost over. And when I say this thing, not political corruption, because it's going to be here. Not a ruling elite, because until you have your proletariat revolution, the ruling elite, they're going to be here, right? The fight, the struggle, the persistence, the problems, persistently trying to overcome the problems is what I want to say. That's going to be here. The only thing that's getting ready to end is this insane election, and I cannot say hallelujah enough, because I think some of us have really lost our marbles, man. This thing has driven some of us to a point of unhealthy mental health. And it's driving a lot of people to a place where, or maybe, and I'm taking into consideration, maybe it's not the election. Maybe the election is their way of expressing some things. But, you know, and I know maybe you guys don't run into it, but maybe it's just because I have a whole lot of followers, and I mean, I get a lot of feedback on a lot of things. I'm so exposed in a lot of ways where I get constantly, like, I would say every single day, about 200 types of notifications across all of our mediums, and I would say an unhealthy portion of them demonstrate a frantic nature, right? They're frantic about trying to solve the world's problem right now, today. Listen, it's been here. It's gonna. This is just some advice from one brother to another, from one brother to my sisters to my non-gender conforming people. I'm just giving you some advice. This shit will drive you crazy. Ask me how I know, because I've done this every day for the last 2 years straight during one of the most vitriolic elections, and I'm telling you, everybody, we gotta fight after November 8th. But in the meantime, take it in stride. It's not the end of the world. The world, contrary to this tweet, the apocalypse did not happen last night. The apocalypse is not going to happen if Donald Trump wins. I paused there, but the apocalypse is not coming if Hillary Clinton wins. I wanted to bet somebody wanted to bet me. We were going to bet like $1,000 over whether or not Hillary Clinton was going to start World War III. Like, not that that's a laughing matter, but the fact of the matter is that people have gone to this place where they are frantically, sincerely believing that the world is coming to an end if Trump becomes president, if Hillary becomes president. And you know what the fact of the matter is? That same corruption that has been here since the dawn of mankind, it's going to still be here. That same apathy that we see that's a problem now, it's unfortunately going to be here. Things are more likely not to change at all. And I'm not saying that, all I'm saying is at this point, it's baked into the system. One of those two people are going to be your president. So everybody needs to just chill the hell out, go and do your part, vote for whoever you're going to vote for, but calm, please. It's just not for me, for you. Everybody just woosah, just breathe, because we have to pick up the fight on November 9th. And if we lose our minds between now and then, what good are we going to be to anybody? So what I'm going to do, so that I don't lose my mind, is that I'm going to unplug after November 8th for at least a week. And I'm going to go somewhere and I'm going to look at I was going to say pretty women, but I was lying. I'm going to look at pretty landscapes. I'm going to look at the fall. I'm going to drive through Connecticut. I'm going to look at the I-5 corridor and just go down, not I-5, but State Road right there in Connecticut, where there's the most beautiful sceneries. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to take it all in, and I'm going to breathe. And I don't care who the president is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because I don't control that except for what I do in the voting booth. And then I have to let it go. So folks, breathe, stretch, let it go. And that's all I'm going to say about that. You guys have a good night, and I will see you next time.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Bonus show coming up. Bonus show. If you're here for the bonus show, go to patreon.com/The BPD Show. Bonus show coming up.